You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and before Saturday, I thought I was just going to focus on the national title game. Whoever the two participants were, I did not think I was going to talk about their Final Four games a lot. Did I think I'd incorporate it? Of course. But I didn't think I'd do a deep dive on the games. Now, through the first game, Houston-Baylor, that assumption held true. Baylor utterly destroyed Houston. It's not worth talking about. UCLA-Gonzaga is worth talking about. Because that is, without question, one of the greatest college basketball games of all time. That makes UCLA-Michigan look like Gonzaga versus Norfolk State. When we think about the greatest college basketball games of all time, what pops into your head? In no particular order, you've got the two Dean Smith national championship wins. One against Georgetown, the other against Michigan. You've got Villanova upsetting Georgetown in '85. UMBC destroying Virginia would be on that list. Then the year after that, Virginia beating Texas Tech. And of course you've got some others there also. But that game on Saturday, UCLA-Gonzaga, is right up there. It's a game that we'll be watching on repeat for years, for decades. It had everything you wanted. The underdog going up against Goliath. The underdog gets out to a big lead. Goliath comes back. They're up big. The underdog storms back. Iconic moment after iconic moment after iconic moment. The block into the pass. The charge. The half-court heave. Epic announcers. Jim Nantz, Bill Raftery, and Grant Hill calling a perfect game. The only bad thing about it is that Lucas Oil Stadium wasn't at full capacity. It would have been great to have that stadium rocking more than it was. You'd get a bunch of UCLA fans, a bunch of Gonzaga fans, a bunch of basketball fans from Indiana. It would have been great. I don't care what Skip Bayless says. Skip Bayless is a troll. That game is right up there with some of the best college basketball games of all time. And the Suggs buzzer beater. Jalen Suggs just may go first overall. based off that shot alone. Bill Raftery had it right. That kid does have major onions. My God. I mean, that's a shot you dream about as a little kid. It's all on you to win this huge game for your team. Alright, maybe when you're in your driveway or your backyard, the scenario is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But the Final Four isn't too shabby. The entire sports world watching. Just like it would be watching for Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The entire sports world was watching that game. And you bank it in from 40 feet out. 95% of NBA players couldn't hit that shot. I don't think LeBron hits that shot. I don't think Giannis hits that shot. The two greatest buzzer beaters in NCAA history are the Chris Jenkins shot and the Lorenzo Charles dunk. Third is Suggs. That shot was better than the two Leitner shots. It was better than the Rip Hamilton shot. It was better than the Paul Jesperson shot. And it was better than the Bryce Drew shot. None of those shots came in the Final Four. In fact, that shot is the longest buzzer beater in Final Four history, according to SportsReference.com. And I'm not talking first half buzzer beaters. Those aren't as impactful. I'm talking end of game buzzer beaters. 40 feet out. With a kiss. You've got everyone outside of Los Angeles going nuts after this shot. My father and I both screamed at the top of our lungs. He screamed yes. I think I screamed, oh my God. Nance, Raftery, and Hill were going nuts. They're supposed to be impartial. It doesn't matter. When something like that happens, yes. React however you want. Even if you're a UCLA fan, you've got to tip your cap to Gonzaga. Was it a lucky shot? You've got to be good to be lucky. That's all I know. I mean, look, you can have a rabbit's foot around your neck with a 4-leaf clover in your pocket and any other lucky charm you want. You're not making that shot. Jalen Suggs did. That takes skill. I've said this before. I read a lot into what you do in March Madness. I don't care about games in some dimly lit gym with 500 people there. What do you do with the lights on bright? The clutch gene cannot be taught. You either have it or you don't. There are a lot of players that fold under the bright lights. Let me tell you, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you can start Jalen Suggs. I don't care if he's a rookie or not. He'll be fine. He won't do his best John Starks impression. But you do need to give UCLA a lot of credit. They were supposed to get their doors blown off by the Zags. The closing odds on this game was UCLA being 14.5-point underdogs. I was listening to Mad Dog Unleashed on Friday. He had someone on to talk about these Final Four matchups. I don't remember who. Doggy asked him, does UCLA have a chance? The guy said no. No one gave the Bruins any chance. But let me tell you, for most of that game, UCLA was the better team. They led for over 13 minutes in the first half. Gonzaga had 27 straight double-digit wins entering Saturday's game. They've got to start a new streak. In fact, in this tournament, UCLA became the first team to lead Gonzaga in the second half. They never trailed by more than 7. There was a point in the second half where they were down 7. And it was kind of late in the second half. I turned to my father and I said, okay, this is a big moment right here. UCLA needs to close the gap right here. If they don't, Gonzaga's going to put their foot on their throats. And that's going to be it. UCLA clawed back. It was a fantastic performance by UCLA. I think Charles Barkley said this during the postgame. Neither team deserved to lose. He's 100% right. On their flight back to LA from Indiana, I really hope they held their heads high. I really hope that they got a rousing ovation when they stepped off that plane. Because those kids deserve it. They played their tails off in the last 2 weeks or so. They beat MSU. Okay, fine. I picked UCLA to win that game. But they weren't supposed to beat BYU. They beat BYU. I picked Abilene Christian. They beat Abilene Christian. They weren't supposed to beat Alabama. They beat Alabama. They weren't supposed to beat Michigan. They held the Wolverines to 49 points. There's a lot of speculation about who's going to take over for Roy Williams at UNC. A lot of talk is about them hiring a North Carolina guy. They can go that route. That's perfectly fine. But if you want to make a splash, hire Mick Cronin. That's the right choice. It's not Hubert Davis. I don't care that Davis is popular at UNC. I don't care that he's an assistant. That's not a sexy hire. If you're the athletic director of UNC, you want to make a splash here. That job, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the UNC job doesn't become available very often. It's a job where if you win, especially considering the fact that Duke struggled this year, didn't even make the big dance, you run that state. Mick Cronin will never run California. That's the right hire, not Wes Miller, the head coach of UNC Greensboro, a guy who used to play for Roy Williams at UNC. I'm not saying that Davis and Miller would do bad jobs, but this is UNC we're talking about. Every college coach in the nation would take that phone call. Let me tell you, Mark Few, a guy who's been incredibly loyal to Gonzaga, who's resisted overtures from big schools before, he's taking that call. Jay Wright's taking that call. There are some NBA guys that would take that call. And I'm not talking just assistants. There are some head coaches where if they see the writing on the wall that they're not destined to be employed by their current team for an extended period of time, they're going to UNC. In terms of just college coaches, I think there are only 3 guys that you can cross off the list. Tom Izzo, Mike Krzyzewski, and Bill Self. That's it. Everyone else, including Scott Drew, including Kelvin Sampson, maybe not Juwan Howard. Howard would stay at Michigan, but everyone else, they're taking that phone call. But the guy who I would key in on is Mick Cronin. I don't think he could do much better than him. The job the Bruins did in this tournament is nothing short of incredible. I mean, there are a couple other moments from that game that deserve to be talked about. The first is another Suggs moment. 2 minutes left, tied at 77. You've got Cody Riley driving in for the dunk. Suggs blocks the dunk attempt and then makes a perfect bounce pass to Drew Timme. I mean, it was executed perfectly by Suggs. If Suggs didn't hit the buzzer beater, that's the moment we're talking about. That's the moment that scouts are keying in on and saying, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. Do you have any idea how hard it is to block a dunk without fouling? It's next to impossible. And then to gather up the loose ball and deliver a perfect bounce pass to the one white jersey in a sea of 4 blue jerseys. There are very few NBA players that could do that. LeBron could do it. Giannis could do it. Durant could probably do it. And that's it. And then tied at 81. A second on the clock. The referees call a charge. Do you have any idea how hard it is to call a charge in that spot? You're the referee. Your natural inclination is to let these guys play. Or at least it should be. There are some referees that like to make the game all about themselves. But most of them don't do that. And also, you're going to have the ire of a lot of people on you, regardless of if you get that call right or not. If you get the call right, okay, cooler heads will prevail. But if you get that call wrong, you're hearing about it forever. You have to be so certain that it's a charge in that spot if you're going to call it. And you know what? It was a charge. It absolutely was. Timmy was set. Juzang barreled into him. Instead of trying for a floater, Juzang just plowed right into him. It's the one mistake he's made this whole tournament. Juzang, for whatever it's worth, had another great performance on Saturday. 29 points. Jaquez had 19. Tiger Campbell had 17. Riley had a double-double. 14 points, 10 rebounds. They did a great job of keeping up with Gonzaga. Because all 5 Bulldog starters scored at least 11 points. Let me tell you, the game tonight has a lot to live up to. This is what we missed last year. We got a World Series. We got a Stanley Cup Finals. We got an NBA Finals. We didn't get a March Madness. We didn't get a title game. If you forgot what makes March Madness so great, you remembered it after watching UCLA Gonzaga. I know I spent a lot of time on it, but it's worth it. That game is without question one of the greatest games in college basketball history. But now it's time to preview the national title game. If Baylor's gonna win, I'd really like Adam Flagler to step up. The one bad thing about Baylor's win on Saturday was that Flagler no-showed. He had just 7 points. This guy has been a big part of what the Bears have done in this tournament. And again, when you're going up against this great Gonzaga team, a team that could very well be the first undefeated national champions since the Bob Knight coached Indiana Hoosiers of 1976, you need everyone clicking on all cylinders. That's how UCLA was able to keep the game so close. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to stop this incredible Zags offense. UCLA stopped Michigan. Another great offense. They followed that up by giving up 93 points. 81 of those points were in regulation. To put that into perspective, UCLA only gave up 49 points to Michigan through the whole game. You know how many points Gonzaga scored in the first half? 45. Not that far off. The only chance that Baylor has is to try to match Gonzaga. UCLA did. They nearly won. The Bruins gave you the blueprint of how to beat the Bulldogs. It's up to you, Scott Drew, to execute it correctly. As for Gonzaga, it's really simple. Keep pushing the pace. You can't get away from that. But also, clamp down on defense. Your defense throughout this tournament has been really good. It's been incredibly underrated. Excluding the UCLA game, the most points that the Zags have given up in this tournament has been 71 to the Oklahoma Sooners in the round of 32. If you get into a shootout, I don't care how great you are offensively, you're vulnerable to an upset. You just saw it on Saturday night. Get back to clamping down on defense. It's been an incredibly underrated part of your run. Get back to executing defensively, and you've got this. And ultimately, that's what I think is going to happen, as great as this Baylor team is. And it is great. Alright, give Scott Drew a ton of credit. I like him a lot. It's nice that he got Baylor back to the national title game. He had some doubters. Those people are looking pretty foolish right about now. And as great as the trio of Jared Butler, Masio Teague, and Davion Mitchell is, I just don't think they can measure up against Gonzaga. This Gonzaga team is for real. And it's great to see. These are two really easy teams to get behind. You've got the coach from the great basketball family. His father, Homer, incredibly nice guy. Had a lot of success as a coach. Bryce Drew. Obviously, the iconic shot at Valparaiso. Seems to be on his way to doing some big things at Grand Canyon. And this is Baylor's first national title game appearance in 73 years. That's the part of the story that everyone leaves out. 71 years ago, they made the Final Four. They lost to Bradley 68-66. But 2 years before that, they were in the national title game, only to get embarrassed by Kentucky 58-42. Meanwhile, you take a look at Gonzaga, their history is similar. Yes, they've been in a Final Four a lot more recently. They were the team that Texas Tech beat to get into the last national title game. And this is their first national title game since 2017, when they lost to UNC 71-65. But Gonzaga has never won a national title, just like Baylor. They've been in the big dance every year since 1999. And for a long time, they were thought of as this nice team that you can root for, but they'll never win the big one. But this Gonzaga team is different. They're on the cusp of doing something that hasn't been done in 45 years. Be perfect all the way through. It's not enough to be the 07 Patriots. You've got to be the 72 Dolphins. Go the whole season, the regular season and the postseason, without a loss. I think it's more likely than not that this Gonzaga team will do that. We're going to be forced to put some respect on the mid-majors' names. I couldn't be happier about that. It's about time they got some love. Give me Gonzaga. I'll close this show out by talking about the big extension that the Bucks gave Jrue Holiday. He was slated to be a free agent at the end of this year. Not anymore. The Bucks signed him to a 4-year extension worth $160 million. That is $40 million a year. Firstly, let me commend the Bucks for convincing their big three to stick around long term. Chris Middleton signed a big contract a couple years ago. Giannis signed his big contract before this season got underway. And now Jrue Holiday is going to be in Milwaukee for the long haul too. Give the Bucks a ton of credit. As we all know, a lot of players like to leave smaller markets for big markets. The Bucks have done what a lot of small market teams haven't been able to do. The Cavs couldn't do it. The Thunder couldn't do it. The Raptors couldn't do it. The Bucks did. They've kept these really talented players around on long-term deals. They should be commended for that. This is a win for all small market teams. Give Middleton credit for signing. Give Giannis a ton of credit for signing. And give Holiday credit for signing. The thing is, though, $40 million a year for Jrue Holiday is really tough to get behind. I know that he's the third best player on the Bucks. They gave up a lot to get him. And if you're going to have any chance of winning an NBA title anytime soon, you probably need to keep Holiday around. If you lose him, I don't know how you're going to create the cap room necessary to sign a replacement for him. And you won't have the assets necessary to trade for a third star. So yeah, you had to keep Holiday around. And the Bucks are a really good team. They're the 3 seed in the East. They've shown a concerted effort to building a winner. They've done all they can do. At the end of the day, It's not their fault that the Nets have assembled the Death Star. They've done all they can do to put a title contender together. I mean, if the Nets weren't a thing, the Bucks would have a great shot of, at the very least, representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. So look, the Bucks had to keep Holiday around. No question. But he's not worth $40 million a year. I don't even think Holiday would have made $40 million a year if he had hit free agency. You're talking about a guy who's averaging 17 points per game. I'm not saying that's bad, but that's not worth $40 million a year. Look, he's excellent defensively. One of the best defensive guards in the NBA. For the first time in his career, he's shooting over 50% from the field. He's shooting 39% from beyond the arc. He's an integral part of what the Bucks do. But $40 million a year is too rich for my blood. Knock it down to like 32.5, and I'll be okay with it. I get that Holiday had you over a barrel, but if this was his going rate, call his bluff. I'd be surprised if any team in the NBA, especially in this coronavirus climate, would have given him $40 million a year. I can't get behind that. Alright, so that's gonna do it for today. I know that this was only 3 stories, but I can't make up stories when they aren't there. I will say this, though. You're gonna get a Brooklyn Nets show tonight, regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show, every weekday afternoon. You already knew this. What you didn't know is that on Friday, I'm going to be talking to Ron Blumberg. That is right. The first designated hitter in Major League Baseball history will be on this show. And we'll be talking about the book that he wrote detailing his relationship with the late, great Thurman Munson. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get into his career as a whole, but the crux of the interview will be his relationship with Munson. That interview is going to come your way on Friday. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying, why did this San Diego chicken cross the road?